everybody. Good morning. This is Jean here. I have finished my Bargello quilt, and the little tutorial that's to follow is just me finishing up quilting and binding it, which is not necessarily a tutorial. It's just how I've finished my Bargello quilt. And I was showing you how I free motion quilted. I explain it. I didn't have to free motion quilt it. I could have just used a straight stitch when I was quilting this. Now here's my quilt, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few still pictures of my quilt, so you can show some of the detail. Oh, some of the good detail. Oh yeah. Where is it? Oh yeah. It's so interesting. I was looking at my video that I had done of the my finished quilt top, which you saw in all of its glory. This is the whole quilt. It's all quilted. But I was looking at my video and I was thinking, oh my word, that center seam, there was a slight, this was my center seam, which I go on to tell you, I didn't film me putting the top and bottom together. As I say before, it's one seam. You can figure it out. If you cut it and if you sewed it and you've ironed it properly, it's one seam. You have a million seams to match, pin them and you sew it. And that's it. Top and bottom are done. Which I showed you in my introduction. The quilt top was done. Now, I was watching the video, and if you go back, or you don't have to go back, trust me for it, this seam, which is supposed to be like, you can't see it, all of a sudden I realized, oh, I can see it. What is wrong with that pink section there? For some reason, and I don't know why it did it, there was a, there was a sort of a joggle here of this pink that was fairly, it didn't go to a point. Now, I've said a million times, I'm not a perfectionist, but to my eye, looking at it at a distance, as I do, because I'm always working on with a quilt within 2 feet. I walk away, and I was in my other room, and I was watching it on the video, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that seam is visible, is noticeable, because the one piece of fabric didn't stagger up. And I couldn't be bothered. I was in the midst of basting it. And I realized, I was basting, I get up and down and up and down. I was basting it and I realized, oh, and I looked at the video and I'm thinking, oh wow, what happened there? Well, I certainly was not about to go rip out this silly block and add another one. And so what I did, and I'll show you, a really bootleg. I just cut out a hunk of pink and white dot, and I folded the edges in, and I just stitched it on. I just stitched it on the square, and it's done. So now that pink and white dot is you can see it. And actually, there's a little, out of all my seams, there's a little tuck on this one. That's funny. There's no tucks anywhere else. But I'll put my camera on and I'll show you. I am so not perfect. That bothered me. That bothered me. I just, my eye went there. Think about it. Out of all of these million seams, and my eye went to that one, and maybe it did yours. Maybe it did you. So I don't know how that worked, because the rest of the quilt turned out awesome. I love it, I love it, I love it. I show you my backing in my tutorial, but there it is. There it is. It's my Missouri Star Quilt Company. I went, I tell you about it. And I bound this in black and white. Again, I tell you in the next few minutes why I didn't choose it. Elliot chose my black and white. I'm thrilled with it. It's a bright, it's a happy, it's a busy, fun quilt, but with soft softness. So I love it, and I hope you do. I hope you enjoy this tutorial to come. Thrilled about it, and yeah, hold on. Oh, I thought I heard it click off. So I'm like, oh, hold on, it didn't click off. Something clicked in here. I don't know what it was. So yeah, I hope you make a Bargello. I really do. It was a delightful project. It was an easy project. It was a design at your own. I think I'm going to make one, and I'm copying. I saw a quilt online, and it was all they've done is put, I think, like 26 or 27 different colors, graduating, and then another, like, it was blues, go figure, blues and purples, and then a little bit of green, and then a bit of cream, and then like maroon, and then back to, it was very, very pretty. Tons of seams, bigger seams, and tons of little seams, and then bigger. But all they did with their, it was a large, large quilt. Now, they probably must have had to use 6 quilts, strip sets. What they did is they just staggered each row. They didn't go up and down. They just laid, you know how you rip it, you stagger it one down. They just staggered it from this corner. They did that one, and then they staggered the next one down, and then the next one down, the next one down, and then when it finally got to the bottom, they would have obviously had to come back up the colorways. So it was this beautiful wave. It was very pretty. It wasn't the up and down. Sometimes they can do my head in. My head's already done in a bit. So I liked that. I thought, oh, and that was more solids. I liked that. I liked that very much. But I like the soft prettiness of a Bargello. But since I've done it, and since I've demystified it, as I say, as somebody else said, it was just such a lovely project. So I hope you love it. I hope you will do it and have fun and enjoy your Bargello quilt. So now I'm going to take some pictures of it, but now I'm going to go edit my video, and I'm going to put this up on YouTube as my final and last part 5 or part 6 or whatever it is of my Bargello quilt. Okay, folks, thanks a lot. See ya. So here's my finished Bargello quilt. I'm hanging it in my sewing room. Can you see it's compared to what I was doing it's upside down. But there's no upside down or right way to this quilt. You see that? I started over here, remember? Going that way. But your waves, look how pretty. Look how pretty. So either way, this quilt can be hung, can be put on a bed. Either way. And now, as you can see, hopefully you can see this, my quilting, my actual quilting stitches. I don't see that detracts. If you can see, I did this quilting stitch up and then I came back down. But then I sort of ran out of place to go. So I just came back up again. So, as I was saying about the quilting, you could have done it in a grid pattern. Now this was a little bit more curved. I was saying as in the video to follow that I could have used just a straight stitch. This is a slightly curved, but I quite like that. I quite like that look. The whole point in the quilting of this is to go sort of with, to a certain extent, I didn't do it there, is to sort of go with the waves of your Bargello. So there is my Bargello quilt, my lovely black and white binding, and then my beautiful backing. Oh, I love that. So pretty. So pretty. So, there you go. My Bargello quilt. I hope you make one, folks. It's so much fun. Thank you so much for following along. Okay, bye. Hi everybody, good morning. This is Jean here. This is part 5 and hopefully the last part of my Bargello quilt tutorial. I've gotten so many wonderful comments achieving what I hoped to achieve that I think I can do this. People saying exactly what I said, like, oh my word, the Bargello quilt is supposedly so easy to make, and yet the instructions, the cutting and the labeling and everything, and the charts and the graphs, a bit too much. But I hope as some people said, demystified the process. I did it for myself because I had wanted to make this Bargello quilt, but was very intimidated. And as you know, part 1, 2, 3, 4, I've made it. Now, I have to apologize. I was working on my quilt up to a certain point where I had made the top, and then I was going to construct the bottom, which I believe in part 4 I showed you a bit how I, maybe I didn't. Maybe I'll have to put that up on this video. How I was going to sew the center seam. I didn't show you how I absolutely put the top and the bottom of this together. It's one seam, and I'm sure if you're going to embark on this project, you're going to make your top and you're going to make your bottom, and you got it figured out. It's one seam. Now, all of the seams for the top and the bottom, if you've cut them correctly according to my tutorial, are exactly the same. If you've cut and sewed that center seam that goes across, which unfortunately I haven't completely videoed, it's just one seam, and you can match. I did pin every single little bit on the on that seam, and then you have a quilt top, which in the part my introduction you see the entire quilt top made, so you can refer back to that. So I've finished my quilt top last week, and now I have sandwiched and pin basted my quilt, and I'm now free motion quilting. Quite a few people were saying, well, how are you going to quilt this? And I'm thinking, well, I'm not quilting it in the ditch. Can you imagine? Okay, I'm going to do it in every seam. I don't think so. Even going up and down, I'm not doing that. So what I was thinking was, well, maybe I'll just do a grid pattern, you know, every 3 seams or so. I wanted to make this a little bit looser because with my quilting stitches, because as you know, the looser or the further apart your quilting stitches are, the fluffier your quilt will be, because the air is trapped fluffier-er in between the quilting stitches. So if you quilt a quilt very densely, it's not going to be as drapey, as warm, or as soft as a quilt quilted looser. And actually it's going to take a little bit longer because you have a lot more quilting stitches if you're quilting, say, every ½ inch or so. A lot of quilts that are hanging in quilt shows, if you notice, are quilted within maybe 1/4 inch. And it makes for a beautiful wall hanging. Beautiful, beautiful masterpiece. But not necessarily a real soft, cushy, warm quilt. Because this quilt also has many seams. It has a lot more thread and a lot more seams, so it makes it a little bit of a heavier quilt top. So it's a little bit more substantial. So I'm coming to how am I going to quilt it, right? I'm thinking, I want to get it. No, not that I'm fed up with it at all. I'm excited about it. I want it done. I want it done. So all I decided to do was every 1.5 inches or so, I'm just going to make free motion quilting, and I'll put my camera down, just sort of like waves as the waves go. I've done a little bit. Oh, I wanted to show you my backing. For those of you who had watched my Missouri Star Quilt Company unboxing with Jen and I, you will notice I got pink. I know. I got the pink, the Tanya Whelan, the pink and white floral. So this is my backing. And again, I think I got, what did I say? I think I got 6 yards of it, which I do. I usually get 6 or 7 yards because now, and this took, I don't know what it took, 5 yards, something like that. So I have a little bit left over for my stash here. But I loved this pink and white floral. Or the pink, it's pink and white dot with the roses on it. It's my style, yeah. So that's my backing, beautiful, soft, lovely fabric by Tanya Whelan, and I'm quilting this, as I said, in a free motion quilting stitch, and I'll put my camera down. There's not really, I was looking at it, there's not really a rhyme or reason. Quilting on a quilt does change the look. Now, if you have a plainer quilt, which this obviously isn't, your quilting stitches really will make it, not break it, but could maybe detract from your piecing, say. I don't want to necessarily detract from this million seamed pieced quilt here. So I'm just doing up and like not circles, because that again would alter the look. Sort of in the back of your head you're thinking, well, am I looking at waves or am I looking at circles? I think I know what I mean. My phone, isn't that the funniest thing? Isn't that the funniest thing? Anyway, I'm going to go push the button because it's nobody. And I'm going to go put the phone down and I'm going to show you what I'm doing. Because I'm free motion quilting this, just sort of in a sort of a diagonal wave. I have curved some of these quilting stitches in the pink, but I didn't curve them in the black. But I just, maybe you can see every inch or so, oh, it's probably glaring, about every inch or so, I'm quilting this, sort of up and down. Now I started at the top, and I just sort of started, at the top and just sort of followed that pink section. Now I'm sort of following this black section. Now, I don't think my quilting stitches will change direction, because I'm just going this way. I'm going the vertical part of the quilt. This is the top of the quilt, as it were, or the bottom if you change it around. So I'm not going across, but I'm just doing well, you'll see. So like here's my green, but then I'm going to start over here. I have my free motion quilting foot on. I have a stronger needle on this. I put an organ needle, 100. I guess it would be a little bit heavier than a top stitching needle, maybe a jeans needle, because there's a lot to quilt. So when I come to this green, I'm just going sort of this way. It's about every inch and a half. And it's not sloppy, I must say. It's not sloppy, my quilting, but it's not incredibly precise. See, now I'm just going to go back up and make sort of a wave pattern. But then I'm coming back down again, because I decided to make the wave. I can't just keep going up the whole time. I have to do like a swag. So now I'm going to come back down on myself. Now I must say, this is free motion quilting, and I know I'm probably so redundant, me saying this a million times. I really believe, even if you're a beginner like my Jen is, you can learn to perfect free motion quilting. It is so incredibly freeing. It may not be the beginner task of quilting, but it's so freeing in your actual quilting when you put the quilt. That's so amazing. I turned that phone off and they left me a horrible voicemail. I gotta get my phone out of this room. Isn't that the funniest thing? And it literally is. I don't know what it is. I get like 7, 8, 9, 10 maybe those robocallers a day. Funny that. They know when I'm in my sewing room and how to annoy me. So I'm just coming here. Now I was going to say I'm going to put my camera closer, but I just wanted to show you in general how I'm moving around the top of my quilt. Just coming over here. This is quite loose. Every inch and a half. I'm just sort of following that. And as you will see, your swags, you'll run out of room. I can't explain it. But now I'm going backwards, going back up here. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not calling attention. I'm not going to be calling attention to my actual quilting stitch. This is how I'm quilting this quilt. Fairly loosely. Just shifting. And again, as you can see, perhaps every 1.5 inches or so, just coming down. Really, I've not taken into consideration with this quilt, the preciseness, because as I said, it's just trying to follow the general look. Now I had come up here because this was a wave, and so I'm going to stop at this point, sort of like this point here, and then come back down. I had run out of thread, so I'm gonna actually I'm gonna join up a stitch there. I'd run out of thread there, so I'll just finish that right there, that stitch. And where's my bottom thread? There it is. And again, maybe you can see how this is turning out. This is every 1.5 inches or so. Just lovely, gentle curves, gentle waves that then I come up and then I go down, because like I said, I'm going to sort of run out of quilt. So I just come back up here to the top at every 1.5 inches. Now I'm coming through my green, which I'm okay for this bit here, but then I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'll show you. I'm going to follow this. I'm following the white, if you can see. This is a little bit confusing, but again, I'm not overthinking this quilting here. I'm just making gentle waves. I'm going down and I'm going up. And there I come back down again. This is a, what did I say, 60 by 80 inch quilt, and so I can easily get that in my juki. Oops, there's a. Oh, I didn't match up that. I got to go back and unpick that. But this is and I'm coming up here. I'm going down, and then what I did is I came back up, a nice gentle slope. Yeah, I don't sweat about getting my big quilt in my little sewing machine. I can do it. So can you. Again, with free motion quilting, I'm just going to come down because I'm going to go back. With free motion quilting, it's all about keeping your stitch length consistent. Now, if you can see there, probably not because of the glare, but my stitch length, because I've perfected it, is pretty much exactly the same on my quilt as it would be if you were doing regular stitching with the machine guiding it. My stitch length is nice and even right across the back of the quilt. Now, I've only worked on this literally for a few minutes, and my quilt, let me just see if you can see this. The camera's right in front of me. I gotta switch this around. My quilt is getting quilted evenly, very, very quickly, right across the top of my quilt. It's getting quilted very quickly and very evenly, and however it goes, I might stop there and I might begin quilting it here this way. So that's how I'm doing it, very loose. I'm not overthinking my quilting stitches on this, because what takes pride of place is my actual Bargello quilt design on the front of this. That's what you're going to be seeing, and then you'll notice the quilting stitches. I have finished quilting my quilt, and as you've seen, I was free motion quilting my quilt. I didn't need to. I thought I was all clever, and I started out. It's funny. I started out by doing this, just on these two pinks up here, like this gentle curve. And as I was going along, I thought, why am I doing it in a curve? I don't want to accent. I don't want to see, as I was just saying, I don't want to see a curve on this angular quilt. So I just started doing straight stitches, but with free motion, with a free motion quilting foot. So they're a little bit wavy all over the place. What I'm saying is, people say, oh, how do I quilt a quilt? My go-to method when I was a beginner was, as I was saying before, a grid. Just whatever your pattern quilt is, whether it's a sampler or even not an applique as much. Sometimes you don't want to go through an applique. But if you're just doing a pieced block, simple quilt, maybe a disappearing 9 patch or a pinwheel, my sort of go-to when I was beginning was a grid. Just straight stitches down and straight stitches across. If you were following along Jean's block party, that's how Jen and I quilted our quilts, because she was a beginner and didn't know how to do free motion quilting. So this quilt would have lent itself beautifully to a grid. So if you're attempting to make this quilt, which so many of you, I'm so thrilled, so many of you were saying, I think I can do that, I think I can do that. It's like that little train that could. I think I could, I think I can. You can, you can. I thought I could. So if you go to finish your lovely Bargello quilt, you can just do it like every 3 inches or so. And again, as I was saying, to make that fluffiness. So I should have really put my my straight stitch on and got off my free motion, because some of my lines are all wavy. But again, I wasn't obsessing about the quilting on this because you don't really see it. You do. I'll put my camera up and you'll see a bit of it. But basically, I just sort of did it on the diagonal. I sort of like eyeballed like this point to this point, and then I came back up this point to this. At one point, I ran out in the middle of a line, and I thought, oh well. So I stopped it there, and I just went on. I don't obsess about things, as you probably noticed. I was trying to say that I don't obsess about things. I'm not a perfectionist, but I do like to do things well. It doesn't make for a sloppy. I hope I don't come across as a sloppy quilter, because I like to do things well. It's just that I'm not bothered. Oh my word! I have a tuck. I have to unpick that. Maybe a perfectionist or a very seasoned quilter would. That would bother them. Those things don't bother me. I'd rather have the quilt done. So wonky lines and all, it's fine. It's beautiful. I love it. Now